أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا صدق الله العظيم.
والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So Alhamdulillah, قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا صدق الله العظيم. My dear brothers and dear sisters, what we'll do is we'll spend a short amount of time discussing issues related to marriage. We can't cover everything in the time that we have because there's a lot of issues. So I'm going to cover some universal issues which inshallah is relevant to the married, to those who are not married, and those who are veterans in marriage. Do we have any veterans in marriage here? MashaAllah. So it'll be related to and inshallah relevant to all, because for those who are not married, they can prepare themselves for marriage. For those who are married and they have these issues, they can enhance their marriage. And for those who are veterans in marriage, it's going to be about how they prepare someone else for marriage, like their children, their nephews, brothers, sisters, or something. And inshallah, it'll be beneficial. And then we can take your answers, questions, inshallah. So firstly, we're going to start off by talking about preparing for marriage. Right? We're going to talk about preparation for marriage. What does preparing for marriage mean? Preparing for marriage means that let's fix the date. Once you found somebody, you fix the date. How many people are we going to invite to eat? Kisko बुलाएंगे? क्या खिलाएंगे? Kisko नहीं बुलाना है? That's a tough one. That's stress. That's the most stressful. Kisko bulana hai, kisko nahi bulana. Right? What you're going to wear for that day, the day before, and the day after, or however many days your function is, and if you're going to do a honeymoon, where you're going to go, and all the focus becomes that. Sara focus uski upar hota hai. The real focus on preparation for marriage should be on, after the honeymoon period is over, how am I going to live with this person? Zindagi kaise guzarni hai mujhe? Mere andar wo qualities hai ya kuch khamiyan hai, kuch uyub hai, kuch challenging features hai ke दूसरे को इससे तकलीफ हो सकती है, दूसरे को इससे तकलीफ हो सकती है, ऐसा कुछ है या नहीं? How am I going to live with another person? Because I've never lived so closely with another person before. It's a very intimate relationship. So that's the real preparation for marriage. Okay, so how do we really prepare for marriage? And how is this relevant for those who are married? This will help to identify issues in the marriages. Right? If you're already married, these issues will be causing problems. And for those who are not married, they could cause problems, so we want to correct them. And that's the preparation of marriage. So, what do you think? Now let's take some ideas. What do you think are some of the big problem-causing factors in marriage?
Miscommunication.
Miscommunication. Actually, you were just ready. Like before I even said the full question, you were ready. Subhanallah. It's amazing. Miscommunication. Yeah. Expectations. What else? Let's start off with something that these are all issues. It's quite a few issues. So we're going to just explore a few issues, and I'm just going to give you a way to think about this, because we can't cover every single issue right today. So we're just going to give you a way to think about this. We need to think about what are those issues that cause problems with others in our life, with our friends, for example, with our brothers and sisters, with our colleagues. वो कौन सी चीजें जिससे किसी और को कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाती है हमारे साथ. And I think one of the first things we should talk about is anger. Are you an angry person? I said Allah has created all of us unique with different levels of faculties. Some of us do get angry a bit more than others. Some of us are greedier than others. Some of us like our food more than others, like eating rather, more than others. Some of us are a bit smarter than others. Some of us are a bit stingier than others. Some of us are more generous than others, and so on. So all of these factors, they have to be moderated for the for good living. Otherwise, they cause problems. So let's talk about anger. If the way to check yourself out is just compare yourself to your brothers and sisters. मुझे ज़्यादा गुस्सा आ जाता है. Do I lash out first? So, does anybody have an anger problem just by nature? I do. Yeah, okay, just 2 of us here. MashaAllah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Chalo, MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I thought hum dono hi honge, lekin there's a few more people. Alhamdulillah, my wife has, MashaAllah, has helped me control my anger a lot. Allah bless her. Right? Anger is a massive factor, very big problem. You're definitely gonna have a problem in your marriage, or you are having a problem in marriage because of your anger. So what do we do now? Let's recognize कि मेरा problem है. That's the first thing. Acknowledge that I have an anger problem, right? And let me get some help. What kind of help? I personally benefited from, because I had to do some lectures on anger. तो उससे मुझे बहुत फायदा हुआ to understand anger and hadith में क्या है इसके बारे में, आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम क्या फरमाया, कुरान में क्या है, वल्काज़िमीन अल-ग़ैज़ वल-आफ़ीना अनिन नास. Hadith में है अबू ज़र रदियल्लाहु अन्हु की hadith है कि the Prophet said that if you are standing and you get angry, then sit down. अगर आप बैठे हुए हो तो lie down. Because it's a more neutralizing state. Anger is a confrontational state. Anger is a release of hormones which takes about 60 seconds. It flushes through your system, gets you angry, and you want to do something about it. Which log bak dete usme, they say things, they do things. If you can control yourself for about 60 seconds, then after it's easier because the hormones subside. That's how you define anger. Unless you're a person who has Netflix of anger, on demand. आपके किसी के साथ कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई, Friday night, 60 seconds, 80, 60, 70, 80, 90 seconds, you had a hormone flushing of anger hormone, etc. Cortisol, I think you call it. And then after that, it calmed down, but on Saturday and Sunday, you kept bringing it back, on demand. Right? That's what some people do. They keep replaying. So on demand, they bring it back. You have to stop doing that. Anyway, I'm not here to give anger therapy because we don't have time for that. एक पूरा मुस्तकिल subject है. तो एक तो ये है कि जिसकी वजह से आप control कर सकते हैं anger को, and the other thing is just get an anger management course. Like, we just have to be honest. Seriously, this is messing up our life. It's messing up our marriage, our relationships, our business issues, whatever it is. This doesn't have to be just to do with marriage. Take an anger management course. You can get them done online. किसी को बताने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Just do it. अपने फ़ायदे के लिए. उसमें आपको बताया जाएगा कि what are the triggers of anger, what is causing you anger, why you get anger, what's your trauma, and that's causing these things. And it helps a lot to get some control over it. It's very, very important. So one was anger. Do usually women get more angry or men get more angry? Men get more angry. Okay, that's what the men are saying, so it's probably not biased then. Okay. The second point, another idea, we're just going to explore different ideas. Another idea, Bismillah, is sensitivity. Sensitivity is a very, very disrupting idea when you're sensitive about every small thing. Choti choti baaton par naraz ho gaye. And then you stop talking to people. That's very dangerous. And you should be a person who just deals with the matter, khulasa ho jaye, and carry on. Not a person who will stop talking to somebody for 2 days. How can, it's a very intimate relationship. It does not accept not talking. Look, there are permissible and valid places to stop talking, but it should not be a matter of defense all the time. So, is there anybody, those people who get sensitive and then they start crying, is that more in men or women? Huh?
Women.
Man. Did I hear man or woman? Women. Okay, all right. Maybe the women agree with that. And it's possible. Alhamdulillah, they have extra compassion and sensitivity and emotion, so it's possible like that. But so how many people stop crying easily when you're upset about something? MashaAllah. Less people here. There's probably more hands in the women. I'm assuming, we can't see them, but I'm assuming there's at least 10, 15 hands. Right? So, what do you do about that? I had a person I know, she got married to this guy who didn't have a father, but he had a mother, and he had some family members, brothers and sisters who are disabled. But she still said, Bismillah, I'm going to get married. I don't mind doing khidmat and staying with them. No problem. So he got married. However, the mother has this sensitivity issue. Thodi choti choti baat par baat ban kar di, 2 din tak khamush, silent treatment. How are you going to live like that? So alhamdulillah, he found a house close by, and now alhamdulillah things are much better and they're fine now. But you can't deal. Now, if you cry easily and you can't deal with the matter, this is, they say that this comes from when you were 2, 3, 4 years old and you have not grown up from there. What does that mean? When you were young and your brother or sister took something off you and you could not fight back, what do? You cry. And then your mum or dad comes along and slaps your brother. Usko ek thappad de di, and gives you your stuff back. So you're expecting that to happen. May I be wrong? If I cry, then somebody's going to come and they'll sort him out, and it doesn't happen like that anymore. They say that these people haven't grown up from that age. Now look, we just have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to channel our sensitivity. So these people are, mashallah, they've got a very good ni'mah, which is that they can cry. There's some people on the 27th night of Ramadan, they can't cry. वो कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन पता नहीं, they just can't cry, and mashallah, ये लोग मुफ्त में रो रहे हैं. They're crying for free. कुछ छोटी सी बात हो, mashallah, रो दिया उन्होंने. So I'm here to tell you that, look, how to channel your sensitivity and your emotion. The way you do that is do baatein. Get a Quran with a tarjuma, translation. Or when you feel emotion, pick it up and start reading with the translation and reflecting tadabbur ke saath, and you will find many things to cry about. And there is jais to cry. So don't waste your tears, but cry on the Quran. Yani cry for what you read in the Quran and channel your emotion. If you can't do that, then the second thing that you do is you just raise your hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and cry in dua. So don't waste your tears, but channel them in the right direction, and inshallah it will become better. I was mentioning, I can't remember, I think it was earlier today, I was mentioning that once my son came home from school and I heard him say that I'm not speaking to some friend. Like, I'm not speaking to him anymore. So I quickly jumped and I said, where did you learn to stop speaking to somebody from? Because hamare ghar mein ye nahi karte hum. Jo kuch ho, we just shout, say whatever you have to do, ho gaya, and carry on. Alhamdulillah. So I said, where do you learn this from? So obviously he must have learned it from a friend. Koi friend ne bhi uske saath ye kiya hoga ki, you know, I'm not talking to you. So he thought that's a defensive mechanism or something really cool, right? So we told him you can't do that. So we learn these things as we grow up, sometimes from others, even if it's not in the family, sometimes in our family. So we need to sort this out, otherwise husband and wife to keep stopping talking to one another, it's very wrong. Don't be one of those, okay? Don't be one of those who does not communicate. Somebody mentioned communication. You don't communicate your wants, your dislikes. So kuch kar raha hai, you know, your husband is doing something, your wife is doing something, and you're not saying anything. They don't know, but you just expect them to know better. And you just keep getting angry. They should know better. He should love me, so he should be better. No. Sometimes they don't know. Call him blind if you want to, but he doesn't know. Communicate rather than blow up one day. That's why let's get this into the communication aspect. Communication is very important. A lot of people don't communicate, and this is, I think, one of the biggest issues with mother-in-laws as well. So a daughter-in-law comes in, and the mother-in-law is the boss of the house anyway, and then she will start expecting, because she feels competition. Her husband, her child, her son, who she has looked after and she was the only woman for him all this time, suddenly is paying attention to another girl. Right? This is the anatomy of this. So she feels a sense of jealousy as well, that my husband is focused somewhere else. Sorry, not my husband. My son is focused somewhere else. And that's a very bad place to be. You have to realize that that's going to happen. So now what happens is that this daughter-in-law who comes, she will expect her to do X, Y, and Z. And if she doesn't know how to do it, like for example, let's say she comes from a Khan family and she got married to a Chaudhry family, right, or a Awan family or something, some other family. So दोनों की यहाँ बिरयानी अलग बनती है. ये भी अच्छी लगती है, वो भी अच्छी, लेकिन बिल्कुल मुख्तलिफ बिरयानी है. So maybe the girl from the, which family was she from? Khan family. Do they make biryani, Khan people? वो पुलाव बनाते हैं. No, उन्होंने बिरयानी भी सीखी है कहीं, right? लेकिन वो मुख्तलिफ किस्म की बिरयानी है. So like, you make it biryani. So she made biryani that day and it didn't come out like the Chaudhry biryani. So it's like, आपकी तेरी माँ ने तुझे वो भी नहीं सिखाया, बिरयानी बनाना भी नहीं सिखाया. Subhanallah, you know, like, you understand? It just goes into that. Another one is, I'll give you an example. In London city, the water is hard. Hard water and soft water. Hard water leaves lime scale. जब वो सुखाया जाता है, तो सफेद वो lime scales are left over. So a woman from another town got married in London, and after the, you know, when she had to clean the bath tub, so she used to clean it, like wash it with disinfectant and so on. She never used to dry it because the city she comes from, the water is soft and does not leave sufed streaks. Got it? Now she doesn't know about London water, so she washes it the way she washed it in her city, and her mother-in-law is saying to her, you don't even know how to wash a bathtub. Your mom did not teach you anything. So, you know, you understand? Because there's no communication. Kuch samajh mein nahi aa raha hai. This is what the issue is. What happens with many mother-in-law and father-in-law and daughter-in-laws is that they want to help them cook, but the daughter-in-law is getting up later and the mother-in-law likes to do everything after Fajr. Right? And that's another issue. You never help me. It's like by the time I wake up, you're already done. But there's no communication. Okay, look, let's find a suitable time for both. the mother-in-law does not want to change. So the husband has the difficult task of dealing with that. That's why communication is another communicating factor, is that sometimes the husband misunderstands the wife of what she's asking or saying, and the husband and the wife misunderstands the husband. So one way to get over this is, I forget what the term is, I've got it in my book. It's a certain term, it's called, I forget what it's called. So if you constantly misunderstand your partner, right? I told you, no, you didn't tell me, you told me this. If that's constantly happening, what you do is you do mirroring. What does that mean? Is that if you tell me something and I'm not 100% sure and we've made mistakes in understanding in the past, I will repeat to you and say, oh, so you mean X, Y, and Z. You mean this, that, and the other. And then you'll validate that. That way, what your misunderstanding here will say, inshallah, bacha jayega. So try to do that. So there's always ways to sort things out as long as you're willing to find out what those things are. Okay, let's go into another issue. If stinginess is a problem in marriage, would you agree? Look, let me make it simple. If the wife is stingy, it's fine. Okay? If the wife is stingy, then it's fine because wo aapke paise nahi kharchegi. So it's good to have a stingy wife. But if the man is stingy, it's a big problem. Because in our Shariat, if you, in the Shariat, in our Islamic jurisprudence, if my children have their own money from Eid or from gifts or whatever it is, I can actually spend that on their food, clothing and lodging. I can charge them. You know, jo bhi unko khilata ho, kapde wagera, I can charge them. I can take it out of their savings. I don't do that, but I can do that. Because the hukm is that your children's money you can use on them. You're not obliged to spend your own money. Okay? But with a wife, okay, now listen up carefully. Even if your wife is a millionaire, Pakistan mein there's many millionaires, right? Because currency. So, if your wife is a millionaire and you're not, the husband is still obliged and obligated, and it's necessary on him to give her her food, her clothing, and her lodging, her living. Can you believe it? She has more money than you, but it's still your responsibility. And what level of food and clothing? So, if she's from a family that shops in, what's a good shop is Almira, yeah, Almira and so on, yeah, like high level stuff, right? Then what's a low level one? Okay, you got it, right? Then you can't force her to spend, you can't force her to wear clothing from low. If she wants to, it's fine. You have to look at both husband and wife average, right? Likewise, clothing and so on. If you're going to get a 5-liter engine, to utna hi petrol isme jayega na. If you have an elephant as a pet, then utna khilana padega na usko. So it works something like that. Of course, if she wants less. So your husband's responsibility is only to provide a decent meal, decent clothing, and living quarters that is independent, you know, with a bathroom, kitchen, and so on. Anything extra in luxury, she can, and she wants it, well, she can buy it if she wants to, unless you want to buy it for her. Okay? I hope you don't misunderstand this. But if the husband is stingy, this is looked down upon in Islam. It's a sadaqah for the husband, for the father to spend on his children and wife. It's a sadaqah. Of course, if you do israf, if you exceed the bounds, There is a car that is that is white Corolla Fielder ADQ 608.
It's blocking the way.
It's blocking the way. So everybody look down while this brother goes, and so that he doesn't get embarrassed. I had a call once. किसी ने phone किया, किसी औरत ने. And she said, my husband is very, very, very stingy. I said, what do you mean? Because some people exaggerate. So I said, mujhe kuch samjhao. How is he? Why is he so stingy? He said, our furniture in the house is so old. Now sometimes it's antique furniture, wo bahut valuable hota hai. Aisi baat nahi thi. It was old furniture that was falling off the doors and everything was just about surviving. So I said, why? Why does he do that? He said, oh, he sends his money to his parents, or I don't know, he says it works, so it's okay. So I said, okay, let me speak to your husband. So I spoke to him and I said, why do you do this for? He said, it still works. Yani usme kapre aa jate hain, they still functions. Okay. Now I had to do something. Another of her complaints was that she wanted organic milk. She became a bit of a health freak. Right? So she wanted organic milk, and that cost, in England, that cost at that time about 60-70 pence more for 4 liters, for example. So I said, kuch na kuch to inke liye karna padega. So on the side, I talked to the husband and I said to him that, look, how much milk do you guys drink a week? So he said, this much. So humne hisab lagaya, and I said, in the whole year, it's going to be, I don't know, 60 to 100 pounds extra. Just do it for her, man. Itne kanjoos na bano. No. So the man should not be kanjoos. He should not do israf either, but he should not be kanjoos. It's very, very important. Or kanjoosi ek bahut buri cheez hai. Right? Kanjoosi, anybody stingy here? Just 3 of us. 4, 5, 6. Okay. Right. You can't come with us. It's kanjoos. This is kanjoos. Subhanallah, you can't take kanjoos with you. So maybe you'll become sakhi by then. Chalo, theek hai. So, kanjoos is like you go to a restaurant to eat with your friends, right? Or khana jab achhi tarah se kha liya, you go to wash your hands when the bill is coming. That's kanjoosi. I'm not giving bad ideas, am I? Right? So, yeah, kanjoosi is a bad thing. And the way to sort out kanjoosi is to just give. Yani aankh band karke, dil pe, pata nahi, patthar dal ke or whatever, just give double of what you find it hard to give, and then suddenly your heart will open. It's just about pushing the heart open. Literally, I'm telling you, you just start giving, and then you'll realize that main gareeb nahi ho gaya, barkat hui, and then you'll want to give more. But just give. That's how you open up the heart. Otherwise, you'll stay stingy forever. So that's a big issue in marriage. Lots of marriages are suffering because of that. Lots of marriages are suffering because of that. In fact, in the Shariat, and I'm not giving a fatwa here, the Prophet ﷺ allowed Hind radiallahu anha to take money without telling her husband from his money because he was so stingy. Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu. Allowed to, has zarurat ke paise. Okay? Now, again, I'm saying I'm not giving a fatwa because you might say, oh, Maulana ne bata diya, Mufti Sahab ne bata diya us din, right? In sui gas society, right? Which sounds really crazy to me, right? Alhamdulillah. So, it's not if you have an issue where your husband, so our sisters, our dear sisters, if you do have a husband who is stingy, get a fatwa first, explain the whole situation to a Mufti Sahab privately. This is the issue. Then if he says, chalo theek hai, you can, then you can take from him without letting him know. Otherwise, don't do it before that, because otherwise, I don't know what you might have big expenses. I say luxury expenses, and you're saying my husband is stingy because he's trying to do some zuhud, right? And so I don't want to give a fatwa on that. Okay, the next point now. Another issue that will cause problem in your marriage is you are too much addicted to something. And that could be many things. You're too addicted to your family. This usually in women that shadi ho jati hai, if they're living close by, she's constantly going to be at her mum's house. Chhodna nahi chahti hai. Although she's officially married, naya ghar hai unka, but they don't invest in this. Wo kabhi bas thoda sa aake jaldi khana paka leti hai, or just comes here minimum. You can't do that. This is your new marriage. You're not going to be with, just remember, you're not going to be with your father and your mother in paradise. Everybody in Jannat is going to be with their spouse. Remember that. You're going to be with your husband and wives are going to be together in your paradise, not with your children. They will have their own spouses. Because everybody's going to be about 30 to 33 years of age. Anybody who survives in this world, who dies, has come in this world and gone, they're all going to be independent. If you were to be with your parents, then we would all be with Adam alayhi salam as one big happy family in Jannat. You understand what I'm saying? So it's the constant in the Quran and Sunnah. It says, Ma'a azwajihim, azwaj. Paradise, there's no bachelors in paradise, by the way. You will be with your wife or your husband in paradise. I'm sorry to break that news to you for some of you. Right? Because unfortunately there are people, they've been suffering for years and years and years. They can't stick each other. They can't tolerate one another. But they've stayed together. You will be together in paradise. But you will be, unless you divorce, of course. Right? And I'm not encouraging you to divorce. Because before you go to paradise, wahan kuch machine lagi hai that will rip out and strip out all of your anger and hasad and kina and bughz and whatever else it is, and you'll be fresh in paradise, and that's when you can live happily ever after, inshallah. So ultimately it'll be wonderful. Right? I'm not going to tell the men how many they're going to get in paradise, because that's going to become a bit sensitive. Okay? But the main thing that we're talking about today is you need to invest. Now, so some women, they're too much into their families, either physically going there. The other bad thing, if they don't physically go there, is that they're constantly reporting on WhatsApp, running commentary over here. What's going on? And her mother is remote controlling her marriage. Have you seen that before? The mother remote controls the marriage through WhatsApp. Aisa kaho, ye karo, wo karo. Oh man, that is dangerous. That is very dangerous. In fact, I don't want to discourage you from telling your mother anything, but usually mothers are the most biased. They look at it from a very emotional way. On one occasion, there was a girl that used to constantly tell her mother everything. And the mother used to tell her what to do. One day, her mother said, stop telling me from now on. You're going to deal with your husband directly. I'm not going to say anything. Don't tell me what your issues are. So the daughter got very upset. Well, why? Said, because you are close to your husband. You know him better than I do. He's your husband. My husband is my husband. They're both different. I can't be controlling your relationship with your husband. The daughter found it bad and upsetting then, but later she discovered that was the best advice she could get. However, I will say that if you are having problems in your marriage that you cannot sort out even after a few months, you do need to get help. And I would say get help sooner than later. In the last 2 years, I've dealt with at least 3, 4, 5 cases of marriages that are over 20 years old, taqriban. And now it's just too difficult to bring them together because the problems are too many and you can't resolve all of them. So I'm going to say, get help sooner than later. Not immediately like kuch thoda sa ho gaya and you rush to someone. No. Usually things will be sorted out. But if it's something that can't be sorted out, is not sorting out, is giving you sleepless nights, get help from somebody neutral, somebody decent in your family or in your friend circle, or a counsellor, a decent counsellor. But get it sooner than later. Okay? Simple way of explaining this to you is that the sisters can't see this, but imagine there's 2 people, husband and wife, on different sides, and they are standing on a line. They're standing on the ground, right? Just imagine that. 2 people, they're standing on the ground. Now, they had a small issue, or a issue. What happens, imagine that they go slightly down into the ground with every issue. So for example, 1 inch वो अंदर चले गए. If they resolve the matter, they come back out, they're back on the same level again. If you resolve the matter. अगर उसका हल आपने निकाल लिया, सुलह हो गई, right? Then it's fine. Okay? Now, if you had a problem, you went 1 inch down and you did not resolve the matter, then you had another problem, because there will always be problems. Remember that. Okay? There will always be problems. I'm guaranteeing you that. In fact, brothers and sisters, is there anybody here who's never had a problem? And they've been married for more than a few months. Is there anybody here? I'm looking for that person. Okay, mashallah, they've been married for several years and they've never had issues at all, even a small one. Anybody here? No? Koi to hoga in Lahore? No? So there's always problem. Even the Prophet ﷺ once, he went away from all of his wives for 29 days. 29 days he went into a loft and he stayed there, and Umar radiallahu anhu, whose daughter was married to the Prophet ﷺ, got worried, so he went to visit him. He went to see him. So he was upset with them because of some nafaqa issues. Once the Prophet ﷺ went to his daughter's house to look for her husband, Ali radiallahu anhu. He wanted to speak to him. When he got there, Fatima radiallahu anha said, sorry, we had an issue and he's in the masjid. So in those days, they used to go to the masjid if they had problems, not to the shisha bar or something. Right? Ya kya hota hai? Kahan jate hai wo log? Pareshan ho to. Doston ke paas. Zyada pareshan hone ke liye. The English people, they go to the pub, they go to the bar, you know, they drink and drink and drink. So everybody will have problems. It's just two human beings trying to deal with one another. The way to be a proper person is to know how to deal with matters and resolve them, get over them, compromise, sort it out, aage chalo. Otherwise, if you think you're never going to have problems, you're living in some other world. So then when you do have a problem, you won't know what to do. So there will be problems. In the beginning, there'll be more problems because you're still getting to learn about one another. And over time, there'll be less problems if you've adjusted yourselves and you know your spouse much better now, so you'll cause less of a hassle. So let me go back to the example I was giving. You had one problem, so you went down how much into the ground? 1/2 inch or 1 inch, depending on the level of the problem. If you did not resolve it, you're still down, right? You had another problem. That takes you down another 1/2 inch or 1 inch. You're down 2 inches now, maybe. And if you still don't resolve it and another problem now strikes, you'll go down further. Imagine after 10, 15 years, how many problems you've had you haven't resolved because you're not seeing eye to eye. You've gone down 10 foot into the ground. In fact, you can't even see each other. You're not sleeping in the same room anymore. And unfortunately, the culture doesn't allow you to do anything. So you're 10 feet in the ground. Aap ek dusre ko dekh bhi nahi sakte. Now you're trying to get counselor involved after 20 years, subhanAllah. You have to, that means you're trying to pull both of them out to resolve the issues and get them back. That's why don't take too long. Get help sooner than later. Because the deeper you go, the more difficult it is to get out. And look, I'm going to give you one, you know, all of what I've said right now, except that communication aspect, is not in my book. This is all extra content. This is bonus content I'm giving you. Right? You can't buy the book here anyway, but soon you'll be able to. These guys are, mashallah, trying to produce it. But this is all extra content. This is stuff I came up with later. And I'm going to tell you one thing, how to conclude the health of a marriage. You know how to tell the health of a marriage? How many of you are married? Okay, that's the measure. Let's say more than half, mashallah. How do you tell the health of a marriage? If I am upset when my wife is upset, then that's a good marriage. If it upsets me that my wife is upset, then that's a good marriage. If I don't care that my wife is upset, right? Or if I get happy that she's upset, then that's a very dangerous marriage. You understand? Because if I'm upset that she's upset, then I'm not going to make her upset. And if I do make her upset, I'm going to try to resolve it so that she's no longer upset because I'm upset because she's upset. Kuch samajh mein aa raha hai? Right? So that is the way to check the health of a marriage. Are you upset? Aapko narazgi hogi, aap upset ho jayenge. If she's upset, then mashallah. And if you're not, and you enjoy her being upset, then forget it. Anybody that gets happy when their wife gets upset? No. Don't tell me. Yeah. Right? So that's a really important barometer to check the health of a marriage. And sometimes you can see that in other people's marriages. Right? It's very important. You have to become... One day somebody asked me, Sheikh, can you tell me that with time does the love increase? So I thought about it, and those who are married, maybe we can have a chat about this, but I don't think the love increases as such, because if you have good love, you already have it, but it deepens. It becomes more refined. It becomes more sophisticated love, because love is based on recognizing each person's qualities and strengths and potentials. So after a few years, we've understood one another now. Initially, what happens in a marriage is the partner does something and you get surprised by it, you're upset by it. Slowly, if you're both trying to make it work, you will both adjust yourselves. Usko ye cheez achhi nahi lagti hai, so I'm not going to do that. Right? And she's trying her best, I'm trying my best, so kuch adjustment ho jata hai. And these instances of problems become less because we know each other more, right? That's how it happens. In fact, some husband and wife, they're so close that they actually sound like, in the wording they use, it becomes very similar. So that's why the love will deepen. Once I was in i'tikaf in Zambia, and there was that Mufti Sahab from Dubai. What's his name? Mufti Akhtar Sahab. So, hum khane mein baithe the, iftar mein ya sehri mein, and he said to his son, did you call your mum? Is she okay? Now, he's about 70 years old or something. So I said, 70 saal ke baad bhi aapko aisi fikr ho rahi hai? Right? Just, it was very betakalluf. So, a big sheikh he is, but he was very betakalluf with me. So, I just said that to him. So, he slapped me on the thigh and he said, pehle to it's all about touch. It's all about lumps. Touching. Right? In Arabic, the word is lums, not lums, lumps. Lums means yalmiz. That means tana dena aisa kuch hai. The lums is a weird meaning, and lumps means touching, tuna. But he's basically saying that before, it's وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. So he said initially it might all be more about intimacy. Later it just becomes about love and mercy and compassion with one another, even if you're not sleeping together. It's an ajib relationship. And I believe this, that love only deepens. It takes on different forms. Right? You've been together, mashallah, that's happened. May Allah give us all that tawfiq. So, let's go back to some of the issues. What else is an issue? We were talking about addictions, right? If the husband he goes to work and he comes back home and then he's sitting on YouTube or watching cricket all day, or he's always out with his friends. Bichari, she's waiting since 8, 9 o'clock and he comes back at 12, 1 o'clock and she's fallen asleep on the dastarkhan on the table. That's very harmful. A lot of addictions like this. And sometimes she's waiting. Do you have any children here? She's waiting in bed and he's in another room on his laptop. She's all ready for him and he's on the laptop somewhere. There's a lot of issues like this. This is all going to cause problems. So, marriage is where you invest with one another. You invest in one another. And especially in the beginning, then you can adjust. So if you're too much into your sports, too much into your friends, too much into your job, too much into your kitabs as an alim, you're bara tahqiqi, mizaj ka, you're a very good solid muhaqqiq alim, and you're always like doing your tahqiq on your kitabs and your tafsir kitabs and so on, right? So then you neglect your wife and you think that's justified. That's not justified. I'm telling this from experience, I'm telling you this. It's not justified. It's not justified. मैं दीन की खिदमत कर रहा हूँ. आप दीन की खिदमत करो, but sort this out first. Otherwise, كونوا من علماء العزاب. Become of those scholars who never got married. They got married to their kitabs, like our Sheikh Yunus, rahimahullah, from Saharanpur. He was married to Bukhari and Muslim. He taught it for 50 years, never got married. Right? Although later he did lament the fact that I wasn't married, because life becomes difficult. Life becomes difficult. So you have to invest in it. Once it gets going, there's children and you got adjusted, you will know how to do it. Then you can pick up on your hobbies and whatever it is. But I have to mention this because it's important. Right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, since we've understood this, you've understood now how to prepare for marriage, which is enhancing marriage. If you're already married, these issues are causing problems. Why should you do this? Why should you care about this? Why should you make your marriage better? For your nasl. Because you are trying to create an environment. It's not just about you two. You're trying to create an environment in which your children can have stability. If your children are constantly witnessing problems and arguments and quarrels and conflicts and fighting and narazgi and all of that, that's destabilizing. Psychologically bad for your children. Very bad. A lot of the rage out there, jo gunde wagera hote hain, maybe look at their life and you'll see that they might have had a troubled home or single parent homes. Every child needs the effect of both parents, the vibes and the energy from both male and female. He needs both of that. Very important. Now, if you have issues, as I said that, when you have an issue, you go a bit into the ground, right? You go down. So maybe your marriage will last for 5 years, 7 years, but then there'll be a divorce afterwards. Would you want it that you bring children into the world and then you puncture their life with a divorce afterwards of their parents? You see the effects of that on the children. You owe it. Also, another thing is, do we have any grandparents here? Anybody who's got grandchildren? Okay, mashallah, one person. How many grandchildren you got? You got 2. Allah bless them. Allah bless them. Now, what's your name? Amir Zahur Sahab. Amir Zahur Sahab. He's got 2 grandchildren. Allah give him more. Now, your 2 grandchildren, they are your grandchildren. And you know that obviously. They're your grandchildren. They're not your brother's children. They're not your sister's children. They are your children. And we're eventually going to be gone from this world and there's no stopping them. Samajh mein aaya? Wo to mashallah badhte jayenge. Before we know it, there's going to be 10, 15, 20, whatever. We'll be gone from this world. But they're still going to be our children. Can you believe it? It's all going to go back to us. It's going to be our children. And inshallah, when we rise on the Day of Judgment, there's going to be a whole army in front of us. Ye aapki nasl hai ye. And they should become the coolness of our eyes. We want to set the scene for them so that there's a certain ethos and benefit that goes all the way down like this. That's why, because you are the head of that household. Did you ever think of marriage like that? Has anybody ever thought about their great-great-grandchildren? Anybody? You have? What's their names going to be?
Probably on the 4 companions, Abu Bakr, Umar.
Yeah, but how many are you going to do? Like every generation? Yeah, I'm talking about your great-great ones. Well, you're going to wait for those to be called Abu Bakr or Umar. What about your immediate children?
Sure. Maybe Muhammad. The name.
MashaAllah, Zabardast. Alhamdulillah. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? And I'll tell you this, that you can see this. When you travel with people, ajnabiyon ke saath, who you don't know. For example, in Hajj, I've been on many Hajj with large groups, 200, 300, 400, 500 people. There's going to be somebody who will stick out for some ajib character, personality traits, right? And when I get to speak to him, I find out that he is a descendant of some special person. Uska effect you can see. We want to leave that effect. I've got a friend, he's in a high position, very wealthy. तो उसने एक वक्फ बनाया है, वक्फ, endowments, कि उसकी जिंदगी के बाद, उसके मरने के बाद भी वो organization जो है वो काम करती रहे. तो उसके लिए पूरे उसने क्या कर दिया है, he's got rules and regulations in place कि उसमें उसके descendants से वो उसमें काम करेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. यहाँ तक उसने सोचा है कि उनके लिए एक दुआ की किताब तैयार की है, अज़कार की किताब तैयार की है कि anybody who works in this waqf of mine from my descendants have to read this kitab, read these du'as and these azkar. Look how far he's thinking. Many of us just think to our own children or maybe grandchildren, but finish. But really, we want to create such an environment in the house between us, husband and wife, for the children, that they get that descendants, कि वो उन सारों में, पूरी नस्ल में उसका इंशाल्लाह उसका फायदा पहुंच जाए. Think about it like that, because that is who you are, right? Don't be selfish. It's important to sort this out. Okay, the last point before I come, because it is getting, I don't know, you feeling cold? It's a bit cold today now. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit cold, or maybe I'm going to make you feel cold if I say that. So, tell me, how many of you have those who are married, how many of you have a love bank account? Yeah, online ho sakta hai. You see these online bank accounts you have. In England we have Starling, Monzo. We have these online bank accounts. So anybody have a love bank account? Nobody. What about the sisters? Anybody have a love bank account? It's very important for the success of your marriage. You have one? It's a really cool bank account. It's amazing. You didn't have one? Pakistan mein nahi milti hai. Is it like shared? Is it like what? Shared one. Yeah, it's a shared one. In a sense, yeah, it's a shared one. Kind of. Yeah. चलो इसका business शुरू कर दे हम. यहाँ मिलती ही नहीं है. MashaAllah. Ajeeb. So a love bank account is essentially, a lot of people, they ask that I'm married, so what are the hukuk of marriage? If you want to reduce marriage to hukuk, it's going to look very ugly. Namaz mein kya faraiz kaun se hai? Allahu Akbar कहना, थोड़ी देर के लिए खड़ा रहना, उसके अंदर एक दो आयतें पढ़ना, one रुकू, उसमें कुछ पढ़ना नहीं, बस ऐसे रुकू करना, like bow down a bit, and then 2 sajdas, and then sit for a short while. ये आपकी फर्ज अदा हो गई. उसमें वाजिबात भी छूट गए, सुन्नत भी नहीं है, nothing. ये कैसी नमाज लगेगी? बिल्कुल खराब नमाज लगेगी, right? What's that? That's there's very basic hukuk in marriage. And the main maqsad of marriage is that you fulfill your rights. So the husband is responsible for providing food, clothing, and lodging, shelter. And the wife's responsibility, she has to be available and for intimacy. Number 2, she needs to be protective of his assets. And number 3, if she comes from a family where they cook, then she is obliged to cook as well, between her and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So these are basic hukuk anyway. Lekin no marriage is going to be sustained on that. Marriage is all about love and giving, sacrifice and compromise and giving to the other person. So now, a love bank account is very simple. If I buy some flowers for my wife and I give them to her and I surprise her with them, you know that love that creates? What I have just done is I have deposited into the love bank account. You understand? If she does something over extra for me, right? That when I come over, she's like, you know what, I'm going to give you a little massage. I don't expect that, but she does that. What that does is she has deposited into the love bank account. What's the benefit? If tomorrow we have a small issue, shaitan makes you feel that you don't love one another. Kuch aur hai, koi aur hai, something else. He's been seeing somebody at work. He's interested in her. It's just shaitan trying to cause problems. But if you have balance in the love bank account, you're going to say, no, kal to he bought me flowers. Unless you're very devious and you think, that's why he bought me flowers. Right? It's just an example. You understand? जो भी हम ज़्यादा करेंगे उसकी वजह से उसमें एक बैलेंस बढ़ेगा तो जब कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाए कोई भी थोड़ी सी रंजिश हो जाए तो you're gonna think no you know there's she does all of this for me, he does all of this for me, he did this for me. Okay, so that's the love bank balance. You can't no I'm fine, I'm worried about these guys because this is perfect, alhamdulillah. So that's the love bank account. Now you have to, in the love bank account, you have to deposit frequently, bit by bit. You can't do lots one time and then you forget about it. I give you, is anybody dentist here? Do we have any dentist here? No dentist here? मुझे फतवा पूछना है. No dentist? Mala Hayat, no dentist down there? No? So imagine, ask your dentist for a fatwa. Say that if mujhe pure hafte mein bahut, you know, I wake up late and I have to brush my teeth, I have to quickly rush to work. So main Sunday ko, jab chutti hoti hai, I'm going to brush for half an hour. So I don't have to do it afterwards. Will that work? It'll spoil your teeth, right? You can't like do lots for your spouse one time and then you forget about it. And also be careful about what you're depositing. I mentioned this in one place. Some brother came up to me and goes, Sheikh, I bought my wife flowers and she got very angry with me. Why? Because she knows her flowers. Oh, bichara bewakoof jaisa koi bhi mamuli si, you know, mamuli se flowers lekar usne usko de diya, usme kuch samajh mein nahi aata ki kaise flowers le. You understand? So if you listen to this now, okay, yeah, Mufti Sahab ne bahut achhi baat kahi, so every Friday you go and buy her the same flowers. Wo jo raaste mein milte hain, you buy the same flowers, she's going to get tired of them. If she likes flowers, the thought counts. Ke aapne mehnat karke you found some different flowers. Now, it could be chocolates, it could be mithai, it could be whatever. It could just be that, look, aap aaram kare aaj, you go out with your friends, you know, have a good time, not doing anything haram, but you know, you go and have a class where bayan ho raha, you go, I'm going to look after the children. Something like, whatever it is, whatever you can do extra. If both can do this to one another, that's how you increase the love bank accounts. Right? And I think I've mentioned this in the book. This is not special content. This is from the book. It's in the book, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop here. That hopefully we understand what we're doing now. And if you're already married, put this into action. If you're not married, then prepare for yourself. Sort out our akhlaqi issues and our weaknesses. And we owe it so that inshallah, if our relationship is good, our children inshallah will also be good. Very, very important. Jazakallah khair. So, do we take some questions or? Yeah? Bismillah. If there's any questions, how are you going to take the sisters' questions? Okay, we'll coordinate on the phone. Yes, go on. Let's start with you.
What if one person in a relationship is too religious?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, if you're asking questions, you have to ask very specific questions. Don't ask me general questions, uske jawab mein ek ghanta lagta hai, because it's a whole bayan then. So ask me specific questions. Okay? So, aapka naam? He's asking me that if one of the two spouses is too religious.
Yeah, like one is not.
One is not and the other one is. First question is, why did you pick somebody like that? Right? That's the first question. Should always pick somebody at your level or better than you. So if she's, it's a very difficult question, but if she's too religious or he's too religious, he should have sabr with the other person. Sometimes some people, they find somebody who is badmash like them, right? And then they become very religious and they expect the other one to become buzurgs overnight. It doesn't always work like that. So you have to have a lot of sabr and patience to do that. That's essentially the short answer to this. Allah asan kare, khub dua kare. Don't overdo it, otherwise you're going to break them. Okay? Yes?
Sheikh, what is the trigger point in a person's marriage where a counsellor is needed?
What is the point at which a counsellor is needed? So look, if you can't deal with the matters between you, you speak to one another, you can't deal with it. Now look, sometimes what happens is you become so defensive ke dusre ne thodi si baat kahi, you're going to become defensive. So one good strategy there is don't speak to the other person about it. Write to the other person. Write them a nice email that they can read when they're alone, so they can reflect. Because if you go to tell them something, sometimes it becomes so bad that they become defensive straight away and they're not willing to think over the matter. So one strategy is you can write to them, either a letter, let them read it, an email, and let them read it, and then you discuss it. When you can't do that, when none of that works, then find somebody in your family that you both trust to try to come and speak to both of you so they can point out what the issues are. If you can't do that, then find somebody from outside the family. Alhamdulillah, most of the time that should sort it out. If you can't find that and you need a professional counsellor, then you can go for a professional counsellor. Basically, you don't have to pay for a professional counsellor straight away. Any decent person, older person with experience should be able to sort it out. Right? Yes.
I think I'm too lenient and overlooking that I would spoil my wife and children. How do I find a balance?
I think I'm too lenient and I think I will spoil my children. How do I my wife and children? How do I find a balance? Again, I don't know how lenient you are. That's very subjective, right?
Other than the matters of Deen, I'm extremely lenient.
I need an example. What do you fear? Think of an example. Yeah.
Fear that she won't listen to me.
She won't listen to you. So find somebody who's listening, right? Find somebody who's decent and who's listening. That way, if you think that they'll walk out. Okay, one thing is that remember, for women, this is one very important advice: don't marry anybody you can't respect. In Islam, we have a hierarchy where the husband is in charge in terms of being responsible, not a dictator. He's responsible. The buck stops with him. He is the one who has to make sure everything is right. If the woman, the wife, cannot respect the husband because she has a bigger degree than him or she's more wealthier than him, it will mess everything up. I'll tell you something, in marriages what I've seen is the woman dominates. Jo bhi wo kahe wo chalta hai. And the husband bichara, he just can't say anything. But there's no happiness in that marriage because it's against nature. So even though the woman is getting her way, she's going to be uncomfortable. She's not going to be happy. I've seen so many marriages like that. Okay, another thing, very important. And this is not for children. I'll say it in coded language. The studies show, psychology studies, it's not Muslim, just regular studies show that if the wife is making more money than the husband, for example, they're both working, and she's making more money than the husband, that affects his performance. His sexual performance, it affects that. Psychology, there's a lot of psychology involved in this. So I would say that if you feel that, you can't say much or whatever, then just toughen yourself up a bit if you can, right? In a nice way. And number two, try to find somebody who is not going to be so aggressive, right? And make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he sorts it out, inshallah it'll be fine. Yes.
Sheikh, what role can children play in their parents' life if their parents don't get along?
Yeah, so the only way that's going to work is that they're having problems for a long time and now their children are old enough to try to sort it out. They can try. But if their mother and father are already deep down in the holes, it's going to be really tough. But that doesn't mean you don't try, you try. So you have to be very neutral because you have to look at both sides and you try to bring them together, right? And again, it just depends on the nature of the problem. So I can't exactly tell you what to do, but it's a good idea to try to do something and to save that marriage. Yes?
In terms of living with in-laws, in Pakistan and in the subcontinent culture, like the considered the default that the wife.
Yes, that's right.
Whereas there are other Muslim cultures, that's in the Arab and other regions, where it's not default and the wife and the husband move out separately to another outcome. What's the Islamic perspective on balancing the rights of both your wife and your parents, especially when, for example, they're not necessarily in their old age and you're like newly married? So how to?
Okay, so what is the Islam? Essentially, the conclusion of the question is that what is the Islamic perspective on how to balance between mother and wife?
And especially in the context of living together.
Especially if they're living together. So number one, I'm going to tell you something that it might be the culture, but in our Hanafi madhab, a wife is and I don't want to cause a problem, but this is the masala. A wife is entitled by our jurisprudence to a living quarter of her own, in which nobody intervenes, nobody interrupts her. That means having a room, a place to cook, and a bathroom. Now that could be separate, or it could be part of a big house. You understand? She doesn't have a right for that. Like, no, I want to live an hour away. She doesn't really have. It'd be better if you can, if it's really bad. But otherwise, it could be in the same house. So the husband can look after his parents, and he can also deal with the situation in his home. So that ultimately, the husband's responsibility is the most difficult, because he has to balance between both. He's going to hear a lot of complaints from his mom. He's going to hear a lot of complaints from his wife. He can't take that to heart. He has to try to resolve the matter. I've given a lot of suggestions in my book. For example, he can, if there's anything good to say, he can say to his mom, you know what, I know we have issues, but you know, my wife, she actually appreciates, you know, a lot about you. For example, so you don't, the most difficult thing is that your mom says something, so you start hating your wife. Your wife says something, you start hating your mom. You have to get beyond that emotion. That's why the best thing is if you can separate them, which means that you find another small space, right? You make a small space there, you stay there, and you can look, or you find another space, and you can both. Now, if the parents don't like that, you're still obliged to give her another space. A lot of parents, they hit you on the head by saying that walidin ki itaat zaruri hai, haan zaruri hai, but there is a limit to that. The walidin can't force you to keep your wife in the same house as them, or the same living quarters. They can't. Her right is different to that right. So that would, if you separated them, you would not be considered in Sharia disobeying your parents, especially if there's a problem. And in Sharia, it's not the daughter-in-law's responsibility to serve the husband's parents. If she does, she gets lots of rewards, so we encourage it. But technically, if there's a problem, no, it's not her responsibility, but the husband has to serve his parents, right? So that's essentially, maybe I've concluded that for you.
4 questions from the women's side.
Okay, 4 questions. I heard on a bayan that Surat Al-Baqarah helps with marital issues. Is it true? What I have heard is Surat Al-Baqarah is very good for magic issues and ruqya and other nazar and all of that stuff. So it's very helpful. In fact, the experience I've had from some people is that Surah Al-Baqarah is very beneficial for those kind of things, which indirectly might help the marriage, but there's no special fadilat for marriage that I have heard, but indirectly so. Which anger management course would you recommend? I don't know. I've never taken one. My wife sorted me out, so I never had to take one. But just check online, and whichever one you like, you can take. If you find a really good one, let me know as well, so I can tell the next person. If the husband doesn't give time to the wife, and usually husbands are avoidant of issues at home, and that aggravates the wife's situation, how should this be dealt? Yeah, that's too general of a question. I want to know exactly what he does, where is he, and how does it aggravate her. But the general answer would be that try to speak to him. If he won't listen to you, try to write to him, literally. And if he doesn't do that, then try to get somebody else involved to understand. And try to make the best of it, find out why he doesn't like to be around. If you can do anything, if you can get somebody else to assist and help you, then try to do that, right? How do you know if you are ready for marriage? And what are some traits you should look for in a man as a modern Muslim woman? Okay, the first one, if you're ready for marriage, I mean, if you are over 18, 19 years old, you're ready for marriage. What does it mean that you're ready for marriage? Like, what does that even mean? So if you read my book, or you listen to my lectures, you listen to this lecture, and that, you know, you follow through, you should be ready for marriage. I've seen 35, 40 years, I'm not ready for marriage yet. It's like, what's your problem, man? You know, marriage teaches you a lot of this yourself. Of course, I think it's good to understand these things, because a lot of people, they learn about marriage, unfortunately, from Pakistani drama, which are just really dramatic problems, right? They're unrealistic. they're juicy, right? You don't want that kind of juice in your life. That's bad juice, right? You don't want that. That's just to create viewers. So don't ever learn from that, right? This is the problem. What traits should a woman look for in a man? Very important. I think I've mentioned, I've got a list of these things. If I can recall them, I said the first thing is, you better be able to respect this guy. You have to be able to respect him, right? In the sense that, yeah, you know, he's got something above you. In the sense that he speaks well, he's got money, or whatever is important for you. Okay, number two, he should be stable. Because remember, the man is the breadwinner of the house, so he has to be stable and able to earn a living and be able to lead the family. So you need a leader, right, with leadership qualities like that. What else do you need? You need some, the Prophet ﷺ was once consulted by a woman about, she had 3 proposals. So the Prophet ﷺ said about one of them that he does not, uski jo lathi hoti hai, wo hamesha uski gardan, you know, uske kandhe par hoti hai, right? Basically saying that, be careful with that one. And I can't remember the other one. So there are things like this, because remember, the husband has to support, so he should be able to do that. He should be a kind, loving person. And yeah, everything else I guess you'll understand anyway. But those are the main things that come to my mind right now.
A question from me.
Yeah.
What I've noticed in my time matchmaking is people focus on physical qualities.
Oh yeah, I didn't talk about that.
To what
Yes.
extent is that important?
How important is physical qualities, right? So look, a simple example. A lot of the time we become interested in somebody because of one trait, one quality. Okay? Now imagine this, that you bought a phone because it looks good, but it's missing a lot of features. Would you enjoy that phone afterwards? You wouldn't. You don't buy a phone just for its looks. You check all the other features. Now, a man will marry a woman for her looks, for her wealth, for her family, lineage, or for her deen. The best is if you can get all 4. The hadith does not mean that aap deen hi ko dekho and ignore all the rest. Especially in today's world where everybody is fair and lovely. They're using fair and lovely and they're trying to look good, right? You better have somebody you're attracted to. Very important. Okay, yeah, fair and lovely chalti hai na? Fair and lovely, kya kehte usko? Naam badal diya. Kya naam rakha? Glow and?
Racism allegations. Racism fairness allegations.
Is good, yeah. ये जो सारे बिलबोर्ड्स है उसके ऊपर सफेद लोग होते हैं. पाकिस्तान में कोई सब सफेद? I've never seen anybody like with a slightly darker tone. Not everybody's that white. Come on, man. What did they do? They paint them or what? Subhanallah. Just misrepresenting everything. So, if you're going to get somebody just for money, they may lose that money. If you're going to get somebody just for family, they may have a problem. If you're going to get somebody, like let's just say you really admire the way she dresses. You admire the way she speaks. You admire the way she looks. Okay, ठीक है, right? Now you got married. आप ऐसा करें, आपका जो front room है उसमें आप stage बना दे. उसके ऊपर उसको एक armchair में यानी एक throne में अर्श पे आप रख दे. And you just keep watching her now. Because you got married for her looks. So put her on a stage and numaish ke liye, and you just keep watching her. Is that what marriage is about? Just to look at them? So when you get married, this is the secret. When you get anything, you look for a package deal. Ki isme ye sari sifat ho. The phone, you don't get it just because it looks good. You get it because it's got this, and this, which I need. So when you're looking for a husband or wife, you get a package deal. Think for yourself what is important for you. Don't be too particular, otherwise you won't find, this special princess or prince you're looking for. But be reasonable about this. And if with the khubsurati, they should be the other things that she should be able to deal with children. She should be compassionate, not very haughty and arrogant. So all of these things come together. That's what you should be looking for. Get a package deal rather than just one thing.
You can stop for men. Just the 5 more questions from men and then.
Okay, ठीक है. So Assalamu alaikum. I got a question from Mufti Sahab. What should we do if there is a difference between the level of how practicing one partner is? Like, is the husband held responsible if the wife doesn't cover herself? So the first question is that it's a bit of a complicated question. If somebody got married to somebody who doesn't cover because he wanted to show her off, and then he became responsible, he's going to have to just deal with it slowly now. He would be sinful for having done that in the past. He can do tawbah from that and work slowly. He's not forced to divorce her, let's put it that way. If she has no other khamiyah, like she's fine with the children, otherwise everything else, there's no fundamental reason for divorce, you can't divorce for that, if that's what you're thinking about. What you do is you work to your best to give her Naseeha in a nice way, to try to sort it out and come to that, and inshallah it will happen. Okay? But that's why I get people, they say that, you know what, I want to get married to this girl, and mashallah, she's got very good qualities, etc., etc., but she doesn't wear hijab, but you know, I'm hoping she's going to wear hijab. So should I get married to her? I ask him, how important is hijab for you? Very important. I said, why are you taking a risk for? You know, it's like, ye main gaadi le leta hu, usme AC to nahi, lekin baad mein dalwa dunga. It's just ridiculous. You can, but look how much difficulty it is, right? So if there are things that you don't want to compromise on, then make sure you get the right one. Unless you're really like life's end and aapko koi mil hi nahi raha hai, then chalo theek hai, right? So that's the best thing. But if your wife doesn't wear hijab and you want her to, you just have to give her Naseeha slowly, slowly, try to sort it out, and inshallah she'll have it. Yes, without them. So we're just taking these questions from the sisters. What to do when both partners are trying their best to resolve the issues, but things keep on getting worse? So 3 days, it's all good, and 4 days are worse. That's too general. Okay, well, kya ho raha hai 4 din mein? Like, what's going wrong? I can't answer this question because the devil is in the detail. Yani, it depends on the issue, right? Also, what to do when a husband keeps on bringing the past issue over and over again, and the wife is unable to have any respect for husband because of all of this. This could be either way. The worst thing you can do is keep going on about the past. It is very harmful. Usse koi fayda nahi hai. Because if you've brought it up 3 times already and it still hasn't made an effect, or you think it's going to have an effect the 4th time or the 5th time, it's only going to make them angry. Don't bring the past up. Learn to over. This is a typical problem, right? Both in men and women, they bring up the past. Stop bringing up the past. It's not beneficial. If you have to strategically bring it up somewhere, take it. But otherwise, don't do that. It's not helpful. It's a koi fayda. It just makes you feel good about it. So you can't do that. That's all I can say, because I can't say anything to the other person because that's not their problem. Okay, so hopefully the other spouse is here as well. Is that a question? If you decline a proposal that is clearly a positive istikhara, positive signs, example, people vouching, recommending, will you be punished with a bad marriage in the future? This is also a guy you don't respect. No, look, don't read too much into your istikhara. Ye koi magic to nahi hai. Right? People call me, will you do istikhara for us? I don't even know you. Why should I do istikhara for you? Do your own istikhara. Also, istikhara is a tool. Right? So what you do is you do istikhara mashwara. You make your own rational decision about whether you want to be with this person or not. While you're doing that, you ask mashwara and you do istikhara. You don't go completely by istikhara or completely by mashwara unless you really want to. You can if you want to. Right? You can if you want to. But the real way is you keep making istikhara every single day until it becomes clear. So if in your istikhara in this one you see a positive sign but you don't like them, I would not proceed. I will carry on making istikhara, and finally if I decide I'm fine, I should do this, I'm happy and content, bismillah. And if afterwards no, then regardless of your istikhara, you will not get married to that person. I would never recommend anybody to get married because they saw a really fluffy dream. But they have no attraction. No. If you want to, you can, but then don't blame the istikhara afterwards, that's all. Right? Because istikharas are not 100%, they're just helpful tools. I was told to make istikhara every single day until I got married, which was about 3 months. Not just 7 days, ye jo 7 din ki baat hai, this is just experience. Ki kam az kam 7 din ke liye karo. Otherwise, my recommendation is that Because istikhara has two meanings. One is to ask for the best option. And number two, it's to ask for the best in what you have already decided. So istikhara ka bahut fayda hai. If husband doesn't give regular pocket money, if he can afford, okay, what about it? Ask a question.
That's the question. Is that okay?
I've already answered the question. Oh, sorry. If a husband doesn't give regular, if he can or if he can't afford?
If he can afford it, but he doesn't.
He doesn't, then he's sinful. Meaning, if he's making her suffer, कि घर में चीजें नहीं है, and then he's saying खाना कहाँ है, you know, and there's some people, they make their wife spend their money. This is very unmanly. They give them very less money. And I just dealt with a case a few weeks ago like this. And now he's telling me, but I was looking after the children. I said, man, be a man. Let her do less work, you do more work. You can't complain about it afterwards. So we should, especially if the woman isn't working and she doesn't have her own money, it's still recommended to give her a bit extra money beyond the needs of the house. That if she wants to give sadaqah, hadiyah, she just wants to buy something extra, she can. Recommended, you'll get reward for it. Okay,
Last question.
this is the last question. How to convince your parents that you want to protect yourself from haram, so you want to get married, what dua to make, how to identify a good man who will inspire me to my akhirah. So the first one is, some of these parents, they have these weird ideas. And when they were getting married 20 years ago, culture was a bit better. And the culture has messed up. So you have to tell them that I go to LUMS, I go to BNU, and it's very difficult. Unless they don't care if you commit haram, then you've got a bigger issue. Because there are some parents who are probably like that, it doesn't matter. Right? So it depends on the situation, but some parents, they just feel that you can stay chaste and, wait until you become a certain age, or you make so much money, or you get a certain degree or whatever. If you can't convince them, get an uncle or an auntie who can try to convince them. Get a Maulana Sahab to convince them. Find somebody to convince them. And do a lot of dua. I don't have a special dua for you, but the dua you do is you get up for tahajjud prayer and you just cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما رب لا تذرني فردا وأنت خير الوارثين. These du'as you can make as well. You just make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just use different strategies to try to sort that out. And how to find the best spouse? I think, what's it called? Mu'min matches. Right? Inshallah, you'll find a good spouse there. Just make a lot of dua. I said, make a list of what your priorities are. Make two lists. One is the characteristics you want that you're not going to compromise on. And then a set of optional characteristics that would be nice to have. And then you go and you find something like that, inshallah. Okay, so no more questions from the women. There are 3 people with their hand up here. What do we do? Go on, quickly. Ji.
Sir, if your choice does not match with your parents' choice in terms of spouse.
If your choice does not match with your parents' choice in terms of spouse, what I always suggest to people is you start earlier to make the mind of your parents or your children, whoever is that's asking, right? So that you can be all on the same wavelength. We both have to compromise, because it would be nice if I can get married to somebody my father is pleased with as well, right? So usme thodi mehnat shuru se karni padti hai, right? To try to get them to understand. And ultimately, if it doesn't work and they want you to marry somebody who you can't get along with, you have a right to marry who you want and then bear the consequences of that. You won't be sinful for doing that, but there's going to be problems. Right, that's the short answer. Yes. Okay, alhamdulillah, yeah.
How can we check all those traits in an arranged marriage system?
How?
How can we check all those traits in an arranged marriage system?
You just tell the person who's arranging your marriage that this is what I want. That's what you do. My son told me this is what I'm looking for. So when the proposal came, I said, mashallah, there's this one. Then we told him. And he said, yeah, okay, khalas, bismillah. Okay, last question, I'm going to make dua.
Use a very specific word, having attraction. And considering you are unmarried and अभी आपने decision लेना है, उससे पहले अभी आपने decision लेना है, उससे पहले how you clarify this thing कि मतलब you are attracted.
Yeah, so the way, look, for those people who are not married, don't go to see the girl first and then after that you just give up. My policy, and it's worked, is you find out everything about this girl you can before you go to see her. If it's from romance, or the other way around. Uske bare mein sari tahqiqat kar lo, family ke bare mein, uske bare mein, through common friends or whatever, right? And then if you're like happy with everything else, then you go to see her. And if you are attracted to how she looks, how she speaks, bismillah. What a lot of people do is, wahan koi ladki hai, let's go and see her. Koi tahqiq nahi, aise chale jate hain. And then you find out something that you could have easily found out before, and then you say no. It breaks people's hearts. Bad way to do it. That's why I try to do it that first shot you win. And I'm saying this because that's what I did, alhamdulillah. First shot, it was done, right? And this happened for other people I've helped like this as well. So don't rush to do this, find out everything, if they're decent, and then after I go to see them. And if you're attracted, alhamdulillah. Right? And remember, the more tight you make this, the more complicated you make this, less people you'll get older. Other people, nicer women will be taken, or nicer men will be taken. There'll be less people left, and then you're going to struggle. So do it sooner than later, right? Okay, we'll make a dua, and then we're finished, inshallah. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram ya hayyu ya qayyum bi rahmatika nastaghith ya hannan ya mannan. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين جزا الله عنا محمدا ما هو أهله يا غفار يا فتاح يا ستار يا حفيظ يا سلام يا لطيف يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Ya Allah, have mercy on this congregation. All of these brothers and sisters who are here, O Allah, the host of the house. O Allah, bless all of them. O Allah, those who are married, grant them blessing in their marriages. Enhance their marriages. Increase their marriages. O Allah, those who are not married, grant them suitable, righteous, pious partners. And O Allah, we ask that you grant the barakah that you gave to the Prophet ﷺ and Aisha radiallahu anha, and to Khadija radiallahu anha. O Allah, allow us all to do this for the right reason, for the sunnah of your Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. O Allah, allow parents and the children to think alike. O Allah, remove the problems between mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and any other issues that are there. O Allah, grant us good akhlaq and character, so that we can live with a spouse and we can be good marriage material. O Allah, make us conducive for marriage, good for marriage. O Allah, bless our brothers and sisters around the world and remove their problems that they are suffering. O Allah, they are suffering many wrongs. O Allah, grant them their dignity, grant them their relief. O Allah, grant them a much better reward than what they have lost. O Allah, bless our brothers wherever they are and remove the problems from them. O Allah, we ask that you accept all of these lectures that have taken place here, all of those who have assisted in this, who have managed this, organized this, coordinated it, supported it, in whatever way, shape or form. Make this a blessing for them all. Make it a source of sadaqah jariyah. Make it beneficial. Forgive us our mistakes and our wrongdoings and our defects and our incompetencies and our weaknesses. And Ya Allah, allow us to do work for your Deen, and allow us to be blessed. And Allah bless Naseeha Institute and all the others who are involved in this. Oh Allah, accept our du'as. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifuna wa salamun al mursaleen walhamdulillah.